Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and toss a coin to your YouTuber cause we're breaking down The Witcher. Season 3 Part 1 is just released on Netflix, and with Part 2 around the corner, we have a lot to talk about. Yep, it's not all as it seems, and for the first part of the video, I want to go through what we learned come the end of episode 5. Adapting parts of The Blood of Elves and Time of Contempt, it does kind of feel like they split this season after the fact, rather than them having a compelling cliffhanger to close on. Now originally, the villain was thought to be Stregobor, but we learn in the finale that that's not the case. We end with Yennefer and Geralt finally working it out, and it turns out it was Vilgefortz all along. Yet he was behind the missing novices, experiments, book stealing and so on. What he wants is for Ciri to help enact his plan, and this has been theorized to banish the elves for good. This makes sense as, according to Francesca's discussion of the prophecy, the child of elder blood will take the elves to safety. So Vilgefortz may simply want to use it to take them out for good, which we'll discuss more about as we get further into the video. Now for much of the last season and this one, we've had the underlying mystery of who some of the characters are working for, and also who's been the person that's been corrupting the portals. He would have got away with it too if it hadn't been for those meddling witches, and Vilgefortz, like most villains, just can't stop giving himself away. He has to give a monologue and explain his entire plan, and he basically turns into a mustache-twirling villain. Now, while Season 2 and 3 largely moved away from the mixed-up timeline scenes into a linear story, the writers sort of bring this back for the finale to tell the party before the conclave. During the Groundhog Day, Yennefer and Geralt slowly work out they accused the wrong guy, in between doing a bit of and it was quite an interesting way to figure out who was who. Now at one point, Vilgefortz talks to Geralt about a painting which shows Jambecker and the First Landing. This was the first time the humans landed where the Northern Kingdoms are now, and we know from the history that they started to take over. The site of the First Landing was where Yennefer was taken, and this combined with the fact that Tissa's necklace was given to her by Vilgefortz is made of the same material as Lydia's necklace. As we know, Lydia has been employing Rience all this time, but the person behind it all was indeed Vilgefortz. However, there's much more to this season than simply that ending, as we close out with Dijkstra holding Geralt at knife point. We will discuss that later on in the video, but for the next part, I want to kind of discuss what the state of the show's in. Now, as I'm sure many of you know, this will be the final one for Henry Cavill, who's departing the series after he basically got fed up of the writers not sticking to the law. The announcement came out shortly after he appeared as Superman at the end of Black Adam, but we all know after the DCEU hit rock bottom that things have been thrown out in a flash. Feel really bad for the guy, as he seemed really excited for Man of Steel 2, but from what I've heard, he would have left this either way due to how they were handling the material. Henry will be heading up Warhammer 40k, which, if you've seen interviews, you know he's totally obsessed with.
So let's talk about what you guys personally geek out about. Henry, let's start with you.
Specifically which universe, or just...
I mean, just anything.
Oh my goodness, here we go.
How long have you got?
You've got so many and I've got none.
Yeah, I was like, how much time do we have?
Listen, I'll sit here all day listening.
Ruling out The Witcher.
Yeah, no, The
Okay.
Witcher. Okay.
I mean, the easy answer is Warhammer 40,000. That is my jam. I have been into it since I was 10.
What's your army at the moment?
Custodes. Yeah.
I'm going Necrons next year.
Wait.
Necrons?
Oh.
Okay, all right, cool.
Were you
Shall we-
into?
Yes.
Were you into this before, or is this a new thing?
Let's just assume that anything nerdy I've been doing for a good 33
Oh wow,
years.
we could talk for hours.
Yeah, no, so yeah, that's my jam, and that's the stuff I do in my free time.
That's amazing.
Now this show and its prequel have been chastised by fans of the source material, and I have to admit I think this has been the worst season. It's difficult to fully judge it because we only have the first half, but I think it dragged out the mystery and also felt very, very repetitive. Not just the party, but I felt like I was at the party myself, with lots of things being what I've seen before, and I can totally understand his departure. Henry's spoken about how he's a true guardian of the law when it comes to Witcher and Superman, and in regards to this, he's been very open.
It's funny, I try not to focus on the pressure aspect of it. I make it more of a personal mission myself, rather than a pressure aspect. Whether it be Superman, whether it be The Witcher, whether it be Sherlock Holmes, I'm not feeling the external pressure. It's more about me. Certainly when it comes to Superman and The Witcher, those are characters I grew up with and I love, and I really, really want to represent in the most source accurate way possible. And that for me was a massive thing, and still is a massive thing. And when it comes to Sherlock Holmes, I wasn't reading the books of Sherlock Holmes necessarily, and so I managed to absolve myself of this duty which I put on myself, which is being a law loyalist, and it's always about the details, and it's always I'm the most annoying guy on set because I'm saying, excuse me, you do realize that this should be happening, and they wouldn't do that, and you haven't read this, that means this would be impossible, and everyone's just going, Henry, just shut up and do the thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do the thing because he wouldn't do it this way, and he can do this.
Now with this in mind, writer Bo DeMeo said, I've been on shows, namely Witcher, where some of the writers were not fans or actively disliked the books and games, even actively mocking the source material. It's a recipe for disaster and bad morale. Fandom as a litmus test checks egos and makes all the long nights worth it. You have to respect the work before you're allowed to add to its legacy. Now because of this, people have presumed that Henry clashed with the writers who've been very open that they dislike the source material. Seems like the best people for the job, Netflix. Get someone who doesn't like it to write it, and in the end there's been lots of rumours flying around. Henry was accused of creating a toxic attitude on set and trying to overrule a showrunner during season 2 and 3. Apparently he created an alliance with another writer who was also a gamer and fan of the lore. Either way, we know the outcome of it now, and I was surprised that they announced a new actor as quickly as they did. That will see Liam Hemsworth stepping into the show, and though I like the guy, it wasn't that well received. I think the showrunners could probably sense things were coming to an end, and thus they filmed seasons 4 and 5 back to back, which I think spells things out. Netflix were likely going to cancel them if the next season doesn't pop off, and thus they've shot them concurrently to ensure they tell their story. Now the producers have explained that there's a flawless plan to switch up the Geralt actors, and supposedly they're gonna get very meta. Considering that the books go in very, very well places, then it could actually turn out to be pretty cool, and I think most people will probably return to see how it plays out. Now back to the plot of season 3 and the other plot threads that dangle, and it mainly focuses on keeping Ciri safe whilst they're on the run. This builds off the back of the events of season 2, which is where we learn the Emperor of Nilfgaard was actually Ciri's father. While the Emperor in the books was searching for Ciri to take control of Centrella, we did not find out that he was indeed her dad until right at the end. Most factions are now searching for Ciri, including Francesca in the Northern Kingdoms, which each want her for their own reasons. Yennefer's aiming to keep her safe by taking her to a school to train her powers, but eventually she ends up splintering as Ciri resents the mages. Now it's important to remember that some believe Ciri to be the subject of Ithlin's prophecy that foretold the world ending in a gigantic blizzard. This would leave only the elves surviving, and they'd then be saved by the child of the Elder Blood. Now we discovered that she did indeed have Elder Blood, as she's the descendant of a character known as Laura Doran. This is an elven sorceress that was part of an experiment to enhance magical powers, who fell in love with a human mage. Now while the Northern Kingdoms wanted to control Centrella, Francesca wanted to guide the elves into a new homeland. There's also village forts who, as we will learn, wants her so that he can use her power to gain even more power. Now in the books, it's prophesied the child Ciri has will be the most powerful magical user in the world, and Village Forts wants to help make that child. Now the final players who probably won't make their move for a while is the Wild Hunt, who we saw in the last season, and here in episode 3. In Witcher Blood Origin, we saw, well, the origin of the Wild Hunt, which formed such a big part of the third Witcher game, which are unofficial sequels to the book. I mean, obviously, the game's title is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, so you're going to get the Witcher going up against the Wild Hunt.
Spoiler alert.
Now we also saw the Wild Hunt in season 2, and you might remember they asked Ciri to join them and stand by their side. Wild Hunt, or their leader Eredin, wants to use Ciri's power to invade other worlds, as they can only bring a small contingent across from where they're at. Blood Origin show the conjunction of the spears in very, very simple terms, which was a colliding of realities that led to humans on this world. That prequel show also showed Eredin and much of the time before the conjunction of spheres, with him being a military leader who became trapped in another world. Yep, multiverse baby, and Ciri does eventually travel across these worlds, which even leads to the world of cyberpunk.
The world where Eredin couldn't find you. What was it like?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Try me.
People there had metal in their heads, waged war from a distance, using things similar to megascopes. And there were no horses. Everyone had their own flying ship instead.
Ciri, stop fooling around.
Told you wouldn't believe me. We should have stayed there.
Now the show took some very, very big liberties, as in the book Eredin could travel across worlds, and in those we had him leading the Red Riders. In the world, he would steal people to use as slaves, and he discovered the main Witcher world along with all the others. However, the conjunction trapped them on another world, and eventually they used mages to travel to the other ones. In the end, though, they could only bring across the Red Riders, and the people saw these Red Riders and then called them the Wild Hunt. They appeared like spectral ghosts riding across the plains, and you can kind of see how it all came into this legend. Now, they're sort of like ring wraiths, which of course made a big impact in Lord of the Rings. However, the prequel show us the conjunction as a result of the evil mage Baelor. This was him wanting to take power from the other worlds, which also brought into play things known as the monoliths. The monoliths, which are only in the show, acted as a conduit, and when one was destroyed, it tore the fabric of worlds. This brought humans and monsters into the main one, and it's all sort of multiversal stuff and worlds colliding. And this sent the character Eredin to another world, and we saw him putting on a mask, which is his Wild Hunt armor. Now, Baelor, a new character for the Blood Origin show, is also banished to another world, but the snow and ice from the end of the world prophecies shown here is sentient. In the books and games, this was an upcoming ice age predicted by Ithlin, and it's later thought someone with elder blood can open up portals, and this can basically take people off Earth until the ice is melted. The White Frost has consumed many worlds, but eventually this gets stopped in The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt. Now, over time, Eredin will no doubt form the show's version of the Wild Hunt, and eventually try and take Ciri and her powers. All the while, Avalach, an ancient elf character who appears later in the books, hunted for Ciri, and he was also trying to avert the crisis. Like the Wild Hunt, he will appear more later down the line, as Vilgefort's plan to use the Book of Monoliths becomes further expanded on. Now, the Wild Hunt are mentioned briefly by the boat captain, who allude to their people stealing away, but for now they're just teased as the endgame and the prophets of doom. Now, with all that being said, we may have gotten a bit ahead of ourselves. Can you tell that I just played Witcher 3? And going back to Season 3, it mainly focuses on all the major players, eventually ending up at the Conclave. This is requested by Yennefer to bring all the mages together, and this is so they can unite against Nilfgaard. At the end of the last season, Tissay and the Northern Monarchs wanted to put a price on Ciri's head so that Dijkstra couldn't get her and marry her off to Vizimir. This is so Redania could control Sintra, and Redania plays a major role in these episodes, even if I've just pronounced the name wrong. Now, as Dijkstra and Philippa aim to keep control on Vizimir, Dijkstra wants to make a play for Sintra by taking Ciri. He even goes so far as to kill the wife of King Vizimir after he brokered a deal with Nilfgaard without involving him. Sensing their power waning, the pair offed her and blamed it on Nilfgaard so that their plans then became unaffected. Enlisted in the plan is Radovid, who in the books became king after Vizimir was killed. He'll no doubt be the most controversial book change with the hardcore fans, and here they're brothers that have been aged up considerably. He starts a flirtationship with Jaskier, partly out of attraction. However, he also wants to use his connection to Geralt to help find Ciri. The pair kiss when he should be looking after her, and we will see how this plays out later down the line. Now, like I said, he's remarkably different from the source material, and while most of his later reign takes place in the Witcher games, the show seems to be changing things up once again. Now, throughout the season and final episode, much is made of Geralt's neutrality. He doesn't play the political games, as he simply wants to keep Ciri safe, but unfortunately he's beset at all sides. This is much like the books and the games, where they ultimately want you to choose, and it's going to decide whether Ciri's used for her elder blood or her regal lineage. Dijkstra grabs Geralt whilst he's about to confront Vilgefortz, and from here we cut to black, closing it all out. Both Triss and Istrid manage to work out that something's going on, as students with elven blood are going missing. They theorise that Vilgefortz going to use the Book of Monoliths to banish the elves for good, and they're left by the season's end investigating the rogue mage. Now, what Vilgefortz is doing is that he's been conducting experiments to try and clone Ciri, who's been left by Geralt. In the books, an imposter Ciri was used by the Emperor, and this was the way to bring Sintra into the Empire. Yep, even The Witcher isn't safe from any sort of incest. Now, your big question is likely what happened after Geralt was kind of captured at the end. Well, in the book Tower of Contempt, where much of the season takes its story from, after the cliffhanger, Dijkstra and Philippa use this moment to wipe out supporters of Nilfgaard. The meeting will lead to an almighty showdown, which is presumably what's going to happen as we wrap up this whole season. Now, we know in the books, of course, that he does confront Vilgefortz once more, only for Geralt to then be defeated. Ciri escapes, and in the end Cahir and Geralt team up, and they go and try and track her down. However, Scoia'tael also... They say Squirrel was a variation, so we'll go with Squirrel. However, a squirrel also attacks along with Ryans and Cahir, due to an alliance that they have with Nilfgaard. In the show, we saw Kahir being sent to Francesca to give him an order as part of an alliance. This will prove to be fruitful later on in the story and probably pay off in the season's second half. Now, Kahir finally fell back into favour with the Emperor by bringing stability to Francesca's elves by removing Robbie Amell's Gallatin. This presumably leads to no resistance to Nilfgaard, and after an attack on the Enclave, they try and grab Ciri. Essentially, the next few episodes will follow the second half of the book Time of Contempt, and the war will break out once more, with each side having their own plans. In the book, Geralt stumbled across this coup set up by Philippa and Dijkstra, and was later defeated by village forts before the mage escaped. He tried to portal away with Ciri before Ciri disappears, heals a unicorn, and joins up with refugee bandits. This then allows the Lodge of Sorceress to be created, and I'm guessing that's where we're all going to be heading. Now, in the end, Geralt is saved by Triss, but how much they cover next time remains to be seen. Now, there are 3 more episodes left to come on July 27th, which should wrap up this story and set the stage for Liam Hemsworth. The first 5 episodes to me were pretty mid, and I can't help but feel like the show has lost its magic. The standouts were Geralt and Ciri working together, with the investigation into Ryan's master feeling rather drawn out, leading to a lackluster cliffhanger. Speaking to The Verge, the producer Steve Gorb said they were inspired by Stranger Things, and he said, "In a streaming world, cliffhangers don't really exist because you're hitting play right after an episode ends. You don't get the satisfaction of the anticipation and discussion and chatting online. So we wanted to give that to the fans, and the story was there for us to do it." Now, while I appreciate them, as the binge watch model has been shown up heavily by weekly releases such as The Boys, it feels rather flat, and you can just read what happens in the books, unlike Stranger Things. While I'm not too much a fan of some of the changes though, I do think there were some good bits, but overall I didn't feel it was that memorable. I'll see how the second half goes, but judging by this part alone, I have to say that I felt slightly disappointed. Either way, I will be back next time, and make sure you comment below giving us your thoughts and feelings on the show. If you want to support the channel for as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below, and as a thank you, you'll get early access to videos every week. We also have our merch store over at zeroedition.com, which sells lots of nerdy inspired t-shirts, hats and more. We've just launched a Secret Invasion / Pulp Fiction one, so if you want to support the channel and get some cool merch out of it, then definitely head over there right after this. By the way, huge thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. You take care. Peace.